Time to get your quarters ready. Welcome to Night at the Arcade. This is the inaugural episode of a podcast that's been a long time in the making for myself. I am joined by the lovely HeyZKay, also known as Zach. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. Pretty average night.
Pretty average. Nothing super extraordinary. Superman didn't fly in your window and say, hey, what's up, and leave. So to break down, this is technically episode 0. I don't want to make this episode 1 because this format and this style is very subject to change. I don't want to set in stone, like, this is how the podcast is going to be. And with any show, it's going to progress and evolve, and it's going to morph into something pretty unrecognizable if you go straight from, like, the first recorded episode to the latest recorded episode. You know what I'm saying? So to give, like, some sort of breakdown on what's going to be happening here, this is just a place for me and a guest, or maybe even several other guests, to really kind of shoot the shit and talk about some current events that are piquing our interest. And I figured I want to start off today with basically our background, our personal background, me and Zach, how we met each other, because it's kind of funny. We tell a lot of people the story, and it's not like a, wow, what a crazy story. It's more like a, oh, that's a nice coincidence. You know? It's like, I guess I'll start off with it. It's been almost 2 years since we met each other, Zach. Do you realize that?
Dude, that is so insane at this point. I don't know how it was for you, Connor, but I feel like I was at this point in my life where I was coming out of high school, or I was going into my last semester of high school, and most of my friends had sort of moved on and done their own thing, or we sort of parted ways for personality differences. And so when we met each other, it was sort of at this this right point in my life where I needed a couple of new friends.
Yeah, well, I say yeah as if I know your backstory, but it's more so I think I can relate on that, because I was going through, I was like more than halfway through college. And at that point in college, I had like this, I still have, this small section of friends from like high school and even before that. And we would meet up and hanging out every so often during breaks and whatever. But as college went through, people start to grow apart, not because of their dislike for each other, but more so their lives are going on. They have to move on with what's happening in their world. So like, for instance, a good friend of mine, one of my best friends, he now lives in Boston with his girlfriend. And I haven't seen him in a good while, but it's not because he wanted to get away from everything. It's more so like that's where his work is, that's where he went to school, and it's like that's just how it is. So the way Zach and I met, we met at MagFest 2017.
A convention for gamers, musicians, and anime fans.
Yes. I was sharing a room with a couple other people in a sub-community of a couple YouTubers that we knew. And one of them, my good friend, Giancarlo Vasquez, also known as GC Positive, I was sharing a room with him. This was my first time meeting him, and I had been talking to him for like a year online. And so when I finally met him, it was just like a kind of, what the fuck is happening? Like, you put the name and the voice to the face, and you're there in person, you're like, whoa, this is trippy. So I think it was like day 2 of MagFest. We're all in our hotel room. Everyone's tired. It's kind of early in the morning, because I think it's like day 2, but it's technically day 1. Because we got there the day before, but MagFest didn't technically start until that day, if I'm remembering this correctly.
So the way MagFest works is it's Thursday through Sunday, but most people arrive at the hotel or the venue on that Wednesday night. So they're there for the beginning. They want to be there for that morning that the convention actually starts. So you were probably there Wednesday night, and then you're talking about...
Yeah, I remember vividly. We were there Wednesday night. And then Thursday, it was either Thursday or Friday that I met you. It was a couple days into the convention. We got up, and there's a Starbucks on the ground floor right before the expo hall that a lot of us went to get breakfast and stuff. Everyone was already planning on getting breakfast. And GC said to me, like, okay, you guys go on ahead. I'm going to meet up with a friend. And we're like, so who is it? And I don't know if this is embarrassing to bring up your old handle, but he's like, I'm going out to meet Error 28. All right, and I'm like,
it's not as bad as other handles I've had, so that's fine.
I had seen the name and the profile picture, but I had no idea who this person was. So I was like, okay, yeah, let's all go down. Let's go get breakfast. And we're going down the escalator, and we just see this like the skinny, unassuming, like kind of shy looking guy. And we all go down. We're talking a little bit, and somehow the topic of New Hampshire comes up, and it's important for a very big reasons because Zach and I are both from New Hampshire. We will not disclose exactly where because doxing is very scary. Not that anyone wants to dox us to begin with. So someone brings it up, and then I'm the one who's like, wait a minute, did you just say you're from New Hampshire? And he's like, yeah.
Man, I would kill to know exactly why New Hampshire came up.
And I'm just like, where? Like, where? New Hampshire isn't a big state. It really isn't. It's more long than it is big.
And nobody lives in the long part.
No one fucking lives up north. It's all southern and mid New Hampshire. No. That's where everyone is.
There's this one town. Okay, this is a little off topic, but there's this one town up north that has like 15 people in it. And I don't know if you knew this, Connor, but like apparently it's a big voting thing up there. Like everyone votes in that town, and then they're like, this is going to be how the rest of the state votes, isn't it? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, you know what? I vaguely know what you're talking about. I can't name the town, but I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, because a
few states in the U.S. have that where it's like this small town, and their influence on the entire state in terms of voting season could change the tide of the vote.
Yeah,
depending on what's being voted on. Anyway, so I ask him like, where in New Hampshire is he? And then come to find out he's like 35 minutes from my house. And also 35 minutes from my good friend Nick, also known as Nick Trousers on Twitter, which I might get him on for a future episode if he's willing to do it. And I've known Nick for a very long time. And our eyes both light up because like we were already getting a good vibe from this guy when we had first met him.
Aww,
and to know that
so
there was
touching.
someone in this, to know that there was someone in the sub community that was actually relatively close to us was like, what the fuck? Like I had known a few people that were like from like Massachusetts, but they were maybe like 2 hours away or an hour away. This is 35 minutes.
It's
that's nothing.
It's really amazing considering how much population density there is on the East Coast. Just how far away people end up living from each other.
And that's why the fact that you live in New Hampshire and realizing that was so fucking eye-opening is because like no one lives here. No one I know lives here. I mean, I know these people, but do I know them? So, Zach, I didn't just bring you on here because we're good friends. That's one of the reasons.
Uh-huh.
But another reason is to spread the good word about what you do.
Oh.
Now, as of recording this, hopefully they'll have something to watch and enjoy. But give a little like insight on what you do.
Oh man!
Aside from like what you do for yourself, maybe what you do for others.
Okay, yeah, I can I can talk about that more than I can talk about what I do for myself, because it hasn't been a whole lot lately. But I am, for the most part, I'm a freelance video editor. I started off doing, 10 years ago maybe now. No, not 10 years ago, 8 years ago. 2010 on YouTube. I pointed my camera at my computer monitor and I told my mom, I was like, I'm going to make World of Warcraft gold guides, Mom. And she was like, all right, that camera's really expensive. Don't tip it over, please. And so I did that for a little while. And then 5 or 6 channels later, I was doing, I was just sort of working on my own stuff. I had maybe 100 subscribers. And I started a group chat with just a bunch of random YouTubers, and eventually I was fortunate enough to add to the group chat my good friend Jeff from Mother's Basement, and eventually I came into a position where I was able to edit for him, and through that other editing opportunities opened up, and so since then I've pretty much been doing freelance editing for different YouTubers. I did stuff for Swankybox for a little while. I've been working on some of the Patreon stuff for Tim Tom. So here and there I get gigs. It's not like a professional job or anything. I work retail most of the time, but yeah, so I'm mostly a freelance editor. I hope to make my own stuff again at some point, but
And,
We'll get
and he's
there.
getting there. I've seen works in progress, and I've seen what's been cooking behind the scenes, and you have some good stuff to look forward to or already enjoy right now, if it's depending on whether or not it's out, which I hope it is, because I've been like nudging at him to like release the fucking.
I'm
thing
hoping
already. Just, like,
I'm
just fucking
hoping
do it
December
already.
1st. All right.
December 1st.
Now
Is
it's
that a
in-
definitive release date, or are you just saying
man.
that as a maybe?
Well, here's the thing. Okay, so Saturday is like the best day to release, right? And December 1st is not only the beginning of a new month, it is also a Saturday. So like how can I pass that up, right?
You make a very valid point. You make a very, very valid point. That's all I have to say about it.
Something about the beginning, like every time I put out a video, I'm like, all right, it's gonna go out on the 1st of this month because that's just how it's got to be. It's the beginning of a new month. It's the beginning of something new. But
It's a fresh
I
start.
always
It's a
miss.
new
Yeah.
beginning. So I want to talk about something that Zach and I have been talking about in person for a little bit, and I feel like it bears repeating just because of how strange I find it for myself. My father and I have this obsession with smart home technology, and just the thought of making our lives even the smallest iota easier is like so cool. I don't know what it is, just like being able to tell your Google Home to turn off your TV for you without having to lift a remote. That's pretty cool. So the reason I bring this up is because my recent obsession and fascination has been with smart light bulbs. I guess my fascination with smart bulbs particularly was when I was at work and we got these, they're called Sea Life smart bulbs. They're made by GE, which, yes, GE is actually still a brand that still makes stuff, apparently. So these smart bulbs are interesting because unlike the Philips Hue, which is like the forerunner and like the most popular and probably the best out there, it doesn't need any sort of like external hub to like buy and connect to. It just works like you plug it into your light socket and you connect it to your Google Home and it works like that. It's instant and it's awesome.
Okay.
So now for my living space, my accommodations, I want to trick it out so that there's multicolor lights and it will wake me up at the same time my alarm wakes me up on my Google Home and like, you know, slowly bring up faux sunlight to reduce melatonin in my body to help me wake up in the morning. Not that my sleep schedule really needs a whole lot of fixing, but like it would just be really nice to have that option.
I know you want to talk about smart lights, but I want to talk
getting
about
somewhere.
Okay.
I'm getting somewhere with this.
But okay.
I'm just saying. All right, so I'm not gonna go too farther into smart bulbs, right? I just wanted to mention that because that's where my mind is with smart technology, and I was thinking about what's next. What is the next evolution of this? And it had me thinking for a second because we already sort of have it, kind of. So Japan is infamous for their extremely technical toilets. Now I want to see sometime in my lifetime a fully functional smart toilet that you don't even have to touch the handle to like flush. And I'm not talking about like motion sensor things because those can be unreliable. I'm talking like flush without even having to move. So like say for instance, this is going to get a little graphic, but you're on the toilet, you're doing your business and you realize that you're you're letting off too much for one load. And you know something bad's going to happen, so you break it up into little pieces, not literally, but figuratively. So like you do it in sections. But to do that on like a toilet where you're sitting down, you stand up, and then the motion sensor sets off the flush to go through, you just say, "Hey Google, flush my toilet," and then it takes care of your waste movement.
No. Wait, why are you breaking it up figuratively though?
Because I'm not talking about like pinching it off.
Uh-huh.
I'm not talking about like physically breaking up your movement so that it like goes down. I'm talking like you unload,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
And you realize you know what the capacity of your toilet is. You know how much it can take. And you're at that point where it's like, if I don't do something about this, it's going to be bad. And I don't want to touch that gross ass handle. So you tell your Google Home or your Amazon Echo to flush the toilet for you. But also, why the fuck do we not have the cool like butt spray technology in Japanese toilets?
Dude, you know how Every day I go to work and I think about how much faster my poops would go if I had a bidet.
I'm just saying, we need to bring enema-infused toilets into America. That's just the right step.
Dude, the Japanese have it all right.
The Japanese have it pretty good. Speaking of the Japanese, something Japanese-related.
No, I never got to say
headlines.
my thing. No.
Oh, were you not moving on?
No, we're not.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. We'll get back to that segue in just a minute. But Zach, what were you going to say?
So we're talking about smart technology, right? I just think that it's amazing. And this is going to sound so dumb, but it is so amazing.
Listen, Zach, it can't be much dumber than what just came out of my fucking mouth right now.
Okay, well...
saying that I want a smart toilet.
So it's amazing how far we've come as human beings that, like... We were, like... So when we came here on the asteroid, right, we were just, like, little tiny, like, micro bio things.
Yes,
and so,
exactly. That's exactly what we came as.
Yes. And so we have evolved to a point where our objectives is to make light bulbs that change different colors without us having to do anything to them other
that
than
is our
talking
primary
to a Google
objective.
Home.
You know, when Moses or whoever got the 10 Commandments straight from God, there was actually an 11th commandment that said, "Thou shalt make light bulbs that are communicated by your voice." But then God said, "You aren't ready for that yet," and took it off. And then Noah got the 10 Commandments, or whoever the fuck.
Well,
Moses.
no. Then he sent
who got
Moses here on the asteroid.
He rode it like a surfboard and crashed into the earth. And then he's like, "What's up, bitches? I got smart bulbs for you."
10,000 years too late. All right.
He was too ahead of his time. Speaking of the Japanese, something happened in the news that has had everyone talking for the past few days. There's been a lot of news of various types throughout this week, some of which we won't go into because I don't think it's the time or the place, but one of which has my interest piqued only because of where I stand as a Pokemon fan and where I stand as a film, like, snob, critic, whatever, enjoyer of film. The Detective Pikachu trailer released on Tuesday to no sort of, like, fanfare and no sort of build-up. Like, there wasn't someone on Twitter saying, like, "Hey, get ready at this time for the trailer to come out."
We should give some context for Detective Pikachu at least.
No, I will.
Right?
I'll get there. I'll get there in just a second. But it just dropped out of nowhere. And for those who are somehow uninformed that this trailer even exists, you might need some context on why it's called Detective Pikachu. A couple years ago, there was a game released in Japan on the Nintendo 3DS. It's just called Detective Pikachu. It's a game more in the style of, like, Professor Layton or even some of the Phoenix Wright games, where it's like, or actually no, I don't think Phoenix Wright's a good comparison. It's more so like an old school adventure game that you'd play on, like, your PC. It's not a traditional Pokemon game in any way. It got announced like a few years ago, and it got everyone talking about, like, well, who's going to play Pikachu in the game, because Pikachu has a voice. He's fully voiced. He can talk like a human can. And we heard him in Japanese, and so everyone started talking like, well, who's going to play him in English? And then there's this whole petition, I guess, or movement to have none other than Danny DeVito.
Dude, it would have been so good. That, like, even unironically, like, Danny DeVito.
It would have been great.
It would have been great. Good job.
So the game came out in Japan, and usually with, like, big Pokemon games like this, we usually get them at the same time now. But there was a long period of time when we did not get Detective Pikachu at all. But it finally got localized a few years ago, and actually around the same time that it was, like, getting news that it was being localized, there was also news that Warner Brothers and Legendary Pictures, or Legendary Films, I forget what the semantics are on that, basically, they want to make a movie based on Detective Pikachu, to which I was like, why? Why not just, like, make a movie adaptation of, like, Indigo League, or, like, you know, the adventures of Ash, Misty, and Brock? Like, that would be the most marketable, and that would be probably the safest bet in theory, because a lot of people's connotation for Pokemon, at least, like, if I'm speaking on behalf of, like, my parents and older people, they know it more so as that annoying cartoon series their kids wouldn't shut up about, and the video games.
Well, yes,
which is in turn an adaptation of each other.
Even if you just slap if you do an adaptation of Pokemon Indigo League, whether you just call it Pokemon, I feel like Pikachu has become so iconic as a character that having Pikachu's name in the title, whether it's Detective Pikachu or, Let's Go Pikachu is coming out in 2 days. Mm-hmm.
As of recording this, not as of releasing this. It is coming out 2 days of recording this episode.
And I feel like just having Pikachu as a center stage character makes more sense in terms of marketability, because you've got this fluffy little boy.
Yeah, Pikachu, Pikachu's going to be the main character regardless of what story you put around him. If it's Ash and his friends going on an adventure, Pikachu is still pretty much the main character. This, in a more literal sense, Pikachu is the main character in Detective Pikachu.
Pikachu wasn't the main character in the series, though.
He was practically a main character.
Well, but
not in the sense that he has characterization and a story arc, but more so name the main characters of the group in the Pokemon.
Honestly,
you would say Ash,
I wouldn't
Misty,
say Pikachu.
Brock,
I would say Ash, Misty, and Brock. I wouldn't say Pikachu. No.
You wouldn't consider Pikachu a main character in the anime.
He
shows
there
up
a lot,
in literally
but he's
every
not a
season.
human.
Misty and Brock ain't there all the time.
Yeah, but he's not a human, Connor. He can't speak. Are
you saying humans can't be main characters?
No, I'm saying
that humans are the main character of Infinity War. He ain't human.
No, but he has the face of it. He is a bipedal talking man.
Pikachu can be bipedal.
Yeah, but he doesn't have long legs and arms.
We're getting off topic.
Imagine Pikachu with long legs and arms.
I hate it. I hate the thought of it, and I wish to never think about it ever again. Thank you, Zach. I appreciate it. Anyway, that's been Night at the Art. No, I can't. So we're getting off topic. The trailer for the movie came out on Tuesday, November 12th, to a reaction of what the fuck. Now, I'm assuming you've seen this trailer, Zach. There's no way you haven't.
Oh, yeah, no, I have.
My biggest concerns, knowing that this movie was going into production, the biggest one, I guess, what was on a lot of people's minds is just what are the Pokemon going to look like? This is the first live-action, big-budget Pokemon movie with CGI Pokemon, and people are like, how are they going to mend these two styles? And there's a lot of criticism being thrown their way for how some of these Pokemon look, but I gotta be honest, I don't have a big problem with it. I don't care that Jigglypuff's kind of furry, and a lot of people are making a big deal about the way Jigglypuff looks, and I'll admit it. It looks creepy. It's a creepy-looking motherfucker.
Most of the Pokemon have fur, you just can't tell in the games.
Exactly. You have to simplify with the art style, and you can't show excessive detail like that. And I think not a lot of people are taking that into consideration. But the thing about Jigglypuff is that we're so used to seeing just practically a smooth balloon, and now it's got fur. And I'm just sitting there thinking, what did you want?
Yeah.
Did you want a giant, fleshy, pulsating nutsack of a Pokemon just standing out there in the real world with terrifying eyes? I would rather have a fuzzy ball with terrifying eyes. That's just me.
The issue with smooth objects in real life is they just don't exist. There are no living beings on this planet that, unless they have a hard shell, that are actually just smooth. It would look like a toy. If you put Jigglypuff in model that way in a CG movie, it would look like a fan-made project. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm already even getting that sort of this is not real vibe just by looking at it, because for the longest time, since this idea of what if Pokemon were in the real world has been in the forefront of our consciousness as Pokemon fans, there have been so many posts on DeviantArt and other websites that are just here's what this Pokemon will look like with realistic proportions and realistic texturing and stuff like that. And it could either look really awesome or really creepy if they take it in a really literal route. I saw an article about how one of these artists actually got hired to work on the Detective Pikachu movie as an artist. And some of their previous bodies of work showed like a Blastoise that didn't look like the exact proportions of like the Blastoise in the game. It was more so like, this is just a giant turtle with like biomechanical blasters in its shell, and it looked awesome because it deviated it enough from the original design but still had enough semblance of what it looked like to make it look cool. But the thing is, you can't do that with this kind of movie. You can't do that because you need what's recognizable and what's marketable.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? You take these designs that are they're so iconic at this point, and you go to you're basically turning them into regular animals, but regular animals they lack that iconic look. It's kind of redundant to say, but if you take Blastoise and turn him into a regular turtle with hose guns, then he doesn't usually how do I want to word this? The cartoony color palette and shape. Oh, that's part of it, right? Silhouettes are really important. And
Yes.
so when you turn them into regular animals, they have that very like almost jumbled blobby silhouette. And a lot of the time, specifically with that guy's designs, they were really well made, really well designed, but a lot of them just looked kind of like dragons. Do you know what I mean? They had that like scaly kind of lizardy looking.
And I'm sure when pre-production was going down for this movie and all the artists were gathering together, they were like, we need to find the middle ground of honoring and acknowledging the original designs. We can't deviate it from it too far, but we have to take what's given with us and not stray too far from the formula, but make it seem like this is something that could actually exist in the real world. And like when looking at it from that perspective and looking at it from like the perspective of like just taking something that's synonymous with one art style and bringing it into another, I think they did a fine enough job. There are a couple outliers, but I think it looks good.
I watched the trailer and I went like, I'm gonna go see that, and that's gonna be cute. Like, I'm sure it's not gonna blow my mind, but
yeah, no, I'm not expecting any masterwork out of this. I just want to see this franchise done justice in some like major motion picture format, because you've got the anime movies that sometimes get wide releases in the US, and you've got the TV show which runs on like syndication and on new episodes localized on TV and stuff. And not that there's anything to redeem and there's no sort of justice to be had, but more so in the realm of video game movies, I feel like we need to have one that's just good. Just like good. Not ones that we can enjoy on ironic levels like the Super Mario Brothers movie. I want something that like I can actually enjoy without any sort of like, yeah, but I enjoy it because blank, or like this was so dumb and I got enjoyment out of that. I just want an enjoyable, fun movie that could be kind of mindless and make me feel a little bit like a kid again.
And I think people probably give me crap for this, but like Illumination's still working on their Mario movie, right?
Oh, yes, they are.
That will probably be a good movie. Like, not bad, not great, but like I have enough faith in Illumination, because when they aren't trying to make Minions funny, like Illumination makes some pretty okay films. Yeah, in my opinion.
That's kind of the problem, though. They're just okay, and they're so consistently okay. They at no point seem to be trying to go above any sort of threshold to be like, look at what we can do. We can be Pixar. We can be DreamWorks. They're just like, let's do like the bare minimum in terms of CG animated kids movies, and we know that it's going to make money because all of our other ones made money. That's what they did with The Grinch. That's what they're doing with Secret Life of Pets, because that movie's like, hey, look, cute animals doing cute things. Don't you want to pay $12 to see that?
Well, yeah, but if you're looking for a gateway, like for something like Pokemon, the fact that, or not Pokemon, Mario, sorry. If you're looking for a gateway for like decent video game movies to get made, when the standards are already so low, having something okay, I guess I would say, is better than nothing. at this point because you want to get that roll going.
Detective Pikachu technically comes out before the Mario movie.
Yeah.
We have seen no promotional images and no concept art, nothing of... I think the Mario movie actually just started pre-production. And they released some sort of press statement saying that... Well, they had hinted at this before when the movie got officially announced. They said that Shigeru Miyamoto would be heavily involved with the film. Heavily. Almost as if he's like the director. I don't know if they're going to go that far. They might. And to that has some pros and cons within itself, because without a doubt, Shigeru Miyamoto is a genius at level design and making games that are fun for all audiences, but he's not very good at how do I put this? He's developed he's developed a sort of reputation with what am I trying to think of here? He did something recently. Oh, you know what the best example is? The fucking Paper Mario series. How he's actively going against having these characters and going against what he had already established, or semi-established, because he wasn't like the director of that game, or he was a producer, but he wasn't the creative forefront of that. But he was also the voice that said, like, no more companions, only toads, and then that really put a bad taste in my mouth, because I'm just like, okay, Miyamoto, whatever you say. And he also seems to be the one at Nintendo that's really trying to push, Nintendo's always been about gaming in different ways, because with the Wii, you introduce motion controls. With the Wii U, you introduce the gamepad. With the Switch, you have the hybrid aspect of it. And he's big on that. He's real big on that. Not to say that change is bad. I've been questioning his creative choices a little bit recently, and it doesn't really bode super well for the Mario movie.
I think the other issue is, other than Paper Mario, which I haven't played, but I've heard good things about the earlier titles, is there's never really been... So what else has he developed, like, in terms of the Nintendo games? Has he always been like Mario, or... He's
been Mario, Zelda, Those are the big ones, because he is the creator of those games. But he wasn't the one that made Super Mario Odyssey the way it is. He wasn't the director of that game. He wasn't the producer. Same with Breath of the Wild. And I feel like if he was, those games would be vastly different.
Yeah.
Vastly,
I guess my
different.
point is, why would you give... Because both Zelda and Mario have never been particularly story-driven games.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you're giving the reins to this man who hasn't really proved himself in terms of character writing. Exactly.
And the crazier thing about that is, when Mario Galaxy came out, he was like, he was obviously the creative head of that game, and that game had, like, not really a story per se, but it was narrative filled. And when that game got released and he looked back on it, he's like, no, that game had too much story. For Mario Galaxy 2, no story. Fuck that. Let's not do that again. And then everyone's like, why? Why would you do that? And that's why I think Mario Galaxy 1 is better than Mario Galaxy 2.
I want you to know that when you said Mario Galaxy 1 is narrative filled, I almost said, like Dark Souls.
Oh my god. You're going to force me to drink. So with Detective Pikachu, I just hope it's good. Everyone's talking about Mr. Mime's dodgeball shoulders and how he looks like the almighty loaf. And it gave me a good laugh when I saw that comparison image on Tumblr. But the Pokemon topic of discussion doesn't end there. My phone, I probably should have put my phone in my pocket instead of on the table where my mic could hear it. Oh boy, that's staying in. With Pokemon, the conversation extends to something we touched on a little bit earlier, and that's Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, the first Nintendo Switch Pokemon game. And they say that this isn't like a core title. This isn't something in like not the chronology of the main games, but more so like you can't compare it with like
X and Y,
Gold,
Sun and Moon,
Silver,
Black and White 2,
all those
and
games.
White. Yeah.
They want it to be more akin to something like Pokemon Coliseum or Pokemon XD, where it's like it's a Pokemon game, but is it a Pokemon game?
I'll be interested to see. I think, well, I was going to pick up Let's Go on release day, but then I racked up $300 in credit card debt. So I'm asking for it for Christmas, but I'm interested to see mostly how the engine will carry over into the new games, or if it will at all. Because I know that a lot of people have been complaining about how Pokemon looks, and it's a bit of an unfair comparison, but I've seen a lot of people compare screenshots of the newest Yokai Watch game to how the newest Pokemon game look compared to their older versions.
It's not even a fair comparison.
But but I think it's fair to want something more than the kind of like chibi 3/4 perspective thing that we've been looking at for what, like 18 plus years now. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like,
I know exactly what you're talking about. And my issue with Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee doesn't really adhere to like the visuals of it and how it looks. I think it looks fine. And I'm saying it could look better, but I think it looks fine for what it is.
Yeah.
My biggest problem, but also my biggest curiosity with the game, is just the oversimplification of the mechanics and just like the gameplay and how they're approaching this style of a Pokemon game. Because for those who are uninformed, Pokemon Let's Go and Pikachu and Eevee is this like eldritch abomination hybrid of the gameplay styles of of original Pokemon and the Pokemon Go, which was released in 2016, which was a worldwide success. One of the biggest mobile games of all time, without question.
Nintendo describes Let's Go as almost like a gateway drug into Pokemon, basically. Like, they want it to be accessible, whatever that means.
They want it to be a kid's first Pokemon game, and it's specifically designed for that, which I think is the wrong way to go about it. Because when Pokemon was first designed in the 90s, I'm sure they were thinking like kids are gonna love this, but they didn't design it specifically so that it would be like babying for kids. Because it wasn't like a hard game per se, but it didn't go too easy on you. And I feel like with this, they're like, we know this is probably your first time playing, so let's, we'll dial it down a little bit and we'll let you go at your own pace. The original Pokemon didn't really have that, and I'm not saying make a super difficult Pokemon game just for the hardcore fans, because apparently we'll be getting that at some point, or something akin to that, because they made promises that the next core entry is going to be something we've been asking for a long time. I don't know what that means. But with Let's Go and how it's designed versus original Pokemon, people love the original game just because it was designed well and it was a fun game, and kids just happen to like it. This one, they're trying to cater specifically to that kid and casual audience.
I have read some of the reviews that have come out because people got early copies, and I've heard that it's not as big a concern as it originally was, the whole like dumbing it down too much. I mean, I haven't played it, and I honestly haven't seen a ton from it, so I can't really comment, but I've heard that it's still a fun time, even if what you're looking for is just something to fill the space between this and the next Pokemon
I'm not
game.
saying it's not going to be fun, and I will be getting it because I'm a mindless sheep. And the thing about Pokemon and bringing complexity to it is kind of a double-edged sword for me, because on the one hand, having that option for advanced techniques and like IV training, EV training, and breeding in natures and all that stuff, it's all awesome because it gives people that extra stuff to go for if they're like done with the main game and they want to keep going back for more, because it's a really good time waster and it's really fun. The problem with that, though, is me learning about that competitive side kind of ruined the game for me.
Oh, no, I completely agree.
And it's so weird because, like, all right, so to give some context for this, college rolls around, and I'm already, pretty big into Pokemon. I'm keeping up with the new releases. I'm playing through all of them, having a great time. I know vaguely about, like, IVs, EVs, natures, competitive battling, all that stuff. When I get into my freshman year, I meet someone who teaches me the ins and outs of, like, IV and EV and natures and all that stuff, and I'm hooked on it because I'm like, this is a new world that I haven't even touched yet, and I'm addicted to it.
And
like,
for anyone who doesn't know, IVs and EVs are the base stats of a Pokemon, essentially, that are like randomized but also not randomized depending on how you breed them.
And the natures are indicative of which stats they excel in and which stats they are bad in, but then enhance that one stat that you have, like attack or speed or something like that. So learning about the competitive side got me so engrossed in that and so engrossed in Pokemon that when I went to Pokemon Sun and Moon and I started playing it, I found myself not having a great time because I was more so focused on whether or not my Pokemon that I was catching were getting good stats rather than going through the game and having fun, which is how I did it for like over 15 years.
Yeah. The reason I originally dropped, or the reason I finally put down X and Y, actually was I had looked up about IVs and EVs, and I had an event Pokemon that I'd gotten a code for, and I punched in the code, and I got the event Pokemon. And I was like, well, I'm gonna restart every single time until I get that event Pokemon with perfect IVs and EVs. And so I did that about 5 times, and I got bored, and I never turned on Pokemon Y again. Because I didn't want to waste... I didn't want to waste my event Pokemon, you know? But, I also didn't want to sit there and reset and spend all that time trying to get perfect IVs.
Yeah, and the thing about the event Pokemon is that you can't breed them. Like with other Pokemon, you can breed them to have the right natures and have the right IVs and EVs. You can't do that with like Reshiram or Dialga and stuff like that. You got to work with what you got. I just feel like maybe Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee is kind of a blessing in disguise for me. I'm just now getting back into my Pokemon Moon save file,
Your Pokemon
to which I'm
Moon
almost
stain?
at. Pokemon what?
Nothing. I was just... Keep going.
What the fuck do you say to me, bitch?
I was messing with the thing you said before. Keep going.
I'm approaching endgame for Pokemon Moon, hoping to beat it before Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee come out. And I'm having a good time with it, forgetting everything I knew about IVs and EVs and just enjoying the story and having fun catching Pokemon. And I feel like if I just get Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee and enjoy it for what it is, maybe it will revitalize that Pokemon fan in me. Because if you're a Connorcade historian out there, you know that my old handle and username was Useful Magikarp for a while, even though the content I was producing on YouTube had nothing to do with Pokemon whatsoever, except for very specific instances. I liked, and there's a reason why I chose that, and it wasn't just because it was kind of a funny name. It's because I genuinely loved Pokemon. There was a good while where I was borderline obsessed, and that kind of died out.
There's something I want to get your opinion on.
What's that?
So, in Sun and Moon might be the Pokemon games that I've had the hardest time getting through. I don't know that I ever actually beat the Pokemon League, but there was something about... Because every Pokemon game that's existed has been technically linear. You go from town to town, you get the gym badge, and you go to the next place. But there was something about the way it was framed that didn't feel the same as Sun and Moon. The way Sun and Moon did it was areas were specifically gated off that you couldn't get to until you'd unlocked a certain circumstance or you'd beaten a certain trial.
Oh, Pokemon's always been like that.
Well,
it's always been designed like that.
It's always been designed like that, but I feel like it wasn't as obvious. Something in my brain was stopping me from getting through Sun and Moon.
Do you think it's because the first thing that comes to mind for me, the first example of that kind of design is in Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, when you're going through Odell Town or Old Dale Town, I forget what the name is, and there's a guy that's I want to draw these footprints of this Pokemon.
Yeah.
You can't come through here. And then you got to go up and talk to May or Brandon, whichever, protagonist you choose. And then you go, battle her. You talk to Professor Birch. And then... Is it Birch? Is Birch in Gen 3? It's
yes,
Birch, right?
Birch is Gen 3.
Yeah, and then you talk to Professor Birch, and then you go back to Old Dale Town, and then the dude's done. And then you move on. It's always been like that. But I feel like maybe you're making that distinction because... This is going to sound weird, but just because it's presented in a different... style, that being fully 3D.
I think that's part of it. I think the 3D nature also makes the world feel smaller because you're now getting all of these different camera angles that aren't just top down. And also, and I didn't even think about this before, but when you are in 3D and you're at that 3/4 perspective looking down, everything looks a lot closer. I feel a
Yeah.
lot more claustrophobic because I can't see what's around me.
Yeah, I did. There was something about the way the games, even like in black and white, because your character was so small and everything stayed in relatively the same size. I think black and white dabbled in like changing camera angles for certain quote unquote cutscenes.
Whatever the city was, you had to walk in like a circle around the city. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was a big thing. I remember seeing that and I was like, whoa, this is so different. Because we were so used to just top-down perspective all the time. But the fact that it was top-down to begin with and stayed like that for a while made the world seem so much bigger because you stayed consistently small.
And I think, especially with the islands too, and not being able to as easily freely traverse them,
that's a big factor.
Something about Sun and Moon felt very gated, very linear, and very slow to me. And it made it really hard.
It is
to
a slow game.
through.
The opening for that game, if you remember, it's so slow. And I hear Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon alleviate that and make it a better like Sun and Moon experience. But my God, I was trudging through that opening. It lasted for like 2 hours.
I think I maybe sat on that opening for 6 months because I was just so tired of like the Pokemon school. It had to like, well, you know what the other issue is actually? It almost feels like the tutorial never ends. Like you keep playing through the game, and I felt like I was just playing through an entire tutorial because they're always giving you the new Pokemon to ride on and stuff like that. And I felt like I was acquiring more of these skills, but it just never ended.
Sun and Moon did do a lot of things that streamlined the whole Pokemon process and just made it better design-wise, I feel, in terms of like getting rid of HMs and just making them dedicated Pokemon that you ride. I like that idea a lot because I don't want to have to like get a Bidoof that knows like Rock Smash, Strength, Rock Climb, and all that just to get through certain parts of Gen 4. Like not having to think about that and sacrifice potential good move slots for HMs is bad, and I don't like it. And I'm glad that they're done with that. I like the addition of the rideable Pokemon because it's like you don't have to worry about what if your fucking Machamp knows Cut. Like you're good. just go through the game and have fun.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be as much of a problem if most of the HMs weren't fucking awful. Like most of them were so bad. Like they serve their purpose fine and at the beginning of the game, like Rock Smash and Strength and Cut and stuff like that. But once you get to like the 6th gym and you still have one of your main Pokemon that knows Rock Smash, unless you went to the move deleter, which you shouldn't because you probably need Rock Smash later in the game, it's like why would you still use it? Are you going to ask for the Pikachu version or the Eevee version? I want to get your opinions on this because it does actually matter a little bit.
Does it actually?
And it does if you think about the way that the Kanto gyms are lined up. I guess, because you will have an advantage on Misty regardless if you go with the Pikachu version, because Pikachu's part of your party. With Eevee, you're objectively going to have a harder time.
Yeah, but I've never had a particular affinity for Pikachu. Like, I know he's the face of the series, but like as far as Pokemon designs go, like I just don't really care for his design that much. I like Eevee because she's a cute dog, or he. There's no discrimination. But I asked for both for Christmas, but I'd rather get Eevee.
One of the big problems I do have with Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, but even though it does kind of make sense as to why they would do it, because I want to emphasize this relationship that you have with it, you can't evolve them. You can't get Raichu, or you can't get any of the evolutions, which is bonkers to me because Eevee was specifically made to show that you can have multiple evolutions.
So
its name is Eevee, as in evolution.
Normally that would bother me, but I did just finish playing Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky, which until you beat not only the main story but also every post-game mission, you aren't allowed to evolve your Pokemon.
That I don't think that's a fair comparison though, because Mystery Dungeon is structured so differently.
I mean, yes, but I think that's just why I don't mind that much.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
I see. Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. I mean, it comes out in a couple days. I'll be getting it, maybe both, since I might get it for a good price.
You getting the Pokeball? I decided not
Maybe.
to. I was going to originally, and then I was like, I'm never going to use this for anything else.
I might save some of my money for dedicated Black Friday shopping, but anything could change. Now, another one of the big things that happened this week, I guess big is a relative term. Probably not as big as the Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, even though that is big for this week. I'm talking about as big as like the Detective Pikachu trailer. I'm talking about the Game Awards. Now, the Game Awards is an Oscar-type awards show that happens every year. It's fundamentally replacing the defunct Spike Video Game Awards, I think it was.
And the Error Awards.
Yes. Oh, I said that so genuinely. That's a little inside joke for you guys who are on the up and up. So the Game Awards is structured very much like the Oscars or the Emmys, where you have different nominees. You have a charismatic host who, except for this time at the Game Awards, it's consistently Jeff Keighley, who
is a good boy.
Yeah, he's charismatic. He's funny. He doesn't come off as too much of a shill nowadays. He kind of did during the Spike Game Award days, but I'm sure he's genuine. I know his love for games is genuine,
and I know his love for Hideo Kojima is genuine.
I was literally just about to say that. I was about to say that, and you squandered it for me. So the Game Awards is really weird for me because, again, much like the Oscars and the Emmys, it's just this giant pat on the back to the gaming industry and be like, you're so good, you're so great. And it's like, we get it, all right? We get it.
I disagree.
It's not to the same extent as like the Oscars and the Emmys, but it's still there.
It's still there, but now they show the only thing that is better about the Game Awards than the Emmys and the Oscars is that they show trailers for new stuff. And I know that Jeff Keighley has posted on Twitter this year that there's more what do they call them? World firsts, premieres, that's what it's called. There's more premiere trailers at the Game Awards this year than there has been any previous year.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
So it's even though there's some genuineness to the Game Awards, I still see it as a little soulless, and I kind of resent that, but I tune in every year. I watch it every year, and I get the same thing every year, except for it was technically, I forget if it was technically 2016 or 2017, when Mick Gordon performed the Doom soundtrack live on stage, and it was genuinely amazing.
Yeah, let's talk about performances, because at most award shows they're awful, but the Video Game Awards have actually had some pretty good and
they've had some good performances. They got Run the Jewels. How did they get Run the Jewels? Those guys are relatively big.
Didn't Imagine Dragons play one year? Was that a thing?
Oh, did they? I don't remember that at all.
I think I need to fact check now.
I mean, Run the Jewels isn't really the biggest name in the music industry right now. The music industry. Listen to me. So the reason I'm bringing up the Game Awards is it is right around the corner. It's premiering on December 8th, I think it is. It's going to be live streamed on Twitch. I don't think it's on TV, though.
Sorry, I'm fact-checking Video Game Awards. Yes, Imagine Dragons, it looks like, did play.
No kidding. I don't remember that at all.
2014.
So the Game Awards, their nominees for this year are out, and you can publicly vote on them. So I figured we'd take the time to go through the nominees.
Ooh, I don't know anything about this. This was a surprise to me that you brought up the Game Awards, so...
Yeah. I was hoping that would be the case because I do want to hear some of your opinions on some of these games. Now, I do not keep up with a lot of the new releases in like big AAA releases in the year. I'm trying to be better at it. I'm trying to be more of a capitalistic pig. In 2017, I was more so focused on building out my Blu-ray collection. This year is more so me focusing on games as well as my Blu-ray collection, which was a lot of money, but we won't get into that quite yet, or even in this episode. So I want to go through this list of nominees.
Tell me the topics.
I want to get your...
Tell me the topics.
Okay. So I guess we'll start off with Game of the Year, because that's the first one. We're just going to go through the website.
We should end with Game of the Year, though.
Well, I'm just going through how it's listed on the website, and the website's super laggy and super bad. So it's going to be a little...
Fix your website, Jeff Keighley.
Jeff Keighley, come on. We know you're the one coding this website in Java. Just make it better, okay?
Jeff Keighley, more like Jeff can't code his website.
Good one. So Game of the Year, for some reason, is the first category on the website to vote for. And there's like a couple, or not, I guess not a couple. There's one very interesting choice on here. And I think you've already seen the nominees, but I'll go through it anyway.
No, I haven't seen every nominee you're about to list off right now. I've never seen. I didn't look at any of them.
Okay, all right. So the nominees for Game of the Year are Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Haven't played it.
God of War 2018.
I haven't played it.
Marvel's Spider-Man. Monster Hunter World, Red Dead Redemption 2, and Celeste.
I played 2 of those, but only like for an hour.
I have not played Celeste yet. I hear it's very, very good. I was just very surprised to see it show up on this list.
I mean, you gotta have an indie game in the top 10,
list
right?
means nothing. What?
You gotta have an indie game in the game of the awards, right?
I mean, I get. Is it a prerequisite?
I don't know. I mean, it's not a prerequisite, but I feel like your bias is gonna look skewed if you don't have anything there.
I guess. I was taken aback to see the Celeste on there. Of all the games on here, I have played / currently are playing 2 of them. And those are Spider-Man and God of War. Spider-Man, I thought was very good. Its third act is incredible. It's awesome. It's very emotional. And it's got good gameplay, great visuals. But I feel like the stronger game and the stronger narrative goes to God of War for me.
I started Spider-Man. I've maybe put an hour into Spider-Man. And it's definitely a game that I'd put more time into. I've just been super busy lately. But I didn't play it and immediately go like, this is my game of the year, you know?
God of War is one of those games where I was like kind of worried about it seeing promotional material and trailers because I thought it was going to like compromise or not compromise, like sort of do away with how combat centric the series is in favor of telling a more compelling narrative, which can't necessarily be a bad thing in concept because having a good story can make a game very good even if the combat or the gameplay itself is just okay. In some instances, not always. This is not always, the way it goes. But I fucking love God of War so far. I'm hesitant to call it my game of the year because that goes to another game, but it's up there. It's up there with one of my games of the year. It's so good. I cannot recommend it enough. So those are the nominees for game of the year. And if we scroll down, or if this website will let me.
I gotta talk about my game of the year.
Oh, well, you want to get to that later?
Do we want to get to
like
later?
Our definitive? Because I will be revealing my game of the year.
Oh yeah, sure thing. Yeah, we can wait. I don't actually have a game of the year yet. I was just I need to think about it.
Oh, okay. The next category is best ongoing game. So basically, a game that's been released before but is getting consistent updates into the year and
can
even
I guess
beyond.
Which ones?
I'll just read off the nominees.
Wait, but I want to guess because I have a couple.
Okay.
Destiny 2.
Ding.
World of Warcraft. Really?
No World of Warcraft.
Really?
No World of Warcraft.
That is that's interesting because they just put out the new expansion.
So the nominees for best ongoing game are Destiny 2, Fortnite, no surprise there, No Man's Sky, Overwatch, and Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege.
I feel like Overwatch is so done. Like, I mean, obviously not like done. Like, a lot of people still play it, but like, the hype is low.
It's definitely not as big as it was in 2016, but it's still there. It still gets tons of players every day, and the competitive scene for it is as big as ever.
Despite the memes, Fortnite should win this category. Like,
yeah,
down.
just by sheer numbers alone, Fortnite's gonna win that. There's no competition.
And it's
there.
like Fortnite, say what you want about Fortnite, but it's like, I don't like the gameplay, but it is a good game. It's well made. It's stable.
There's nothing fundamentally wrong about it, like design wise and gameplay wise. Like, it's not glitchy. It's not PUBG. It's not like glitchy like PUBG. There's just a stigma that goes with it. Let's move into the next category, and that's for best game direction. The nominees for this are A Way Out, which was you remember that game?
Yeah, well, no, I don't
Fuck
remember
the
the game. I
Oscars.
remember the guy.
Yeah, I remember the guy more than the game. Detroit Become Human is also one of the nominees. God of War, Spider-Man, and Red Dead Redemption 2. Those are all the nominees.
I'm trying
for
to
Best
think of
Game Direction.
who made Detroit Become Human. The only name that pops into my head is Phil Fish, and I know that he definitely didn't make Detroit Become Human.
You are so off. It's not even funny.
Phil Cage.
Are you serious? You don't.
Luke
What'd you
Cage.
say?
What his
David
last name's
Cage.
Cage. Yeah. Okay.
David Cage.
So, yeah. I don't know. I was just trying to remember the guy's name.
I think David Cage's head is so far up his own ass. It's just like Detroit Become Human is so pretentious and so like, do you get it? Do you get the allegory? And I'm just like, I got it like the first 5 minutes into the game. Like, I get it.
Do you think that David Cage called it Detroit Become Human because he too wants to become human?
He's never going to get there. He wants it bad, but he's never going to get there.
David Cage just looks like the characters in his games, like Uncanny Valley CG.
Oh, no. Detroit Become Human already has that kind of Uncanny Valley thing going for it. And just to think of David Cage in that art style just creeps me out big time.
Yeah.
The thing about this, in terms of like best game direction, this could go to a couple games here.
But dude,
I feel like God of War is super solid in terms of directing. Same with Spider-Man. From what I've seen of Red Dead Redemption 2, there is so much insane attention to detail and so much like meticulous effort put into that game's world.
Maybe an hour of Red Dead Redemption 2, and I would be happy to, like, despite all of the controversy about that game, I would be happy to see that game win Best Direction.
I have not had a chance to play it myself, but I think I might pick it up on like Black Friday or something. Or actually, no, I'm going to try and finish God of War first, and then I'm going to play Red Dead 2. Best Narrative. This kind of goes hand in hand with Best Direction, I feel, because a lot of the same games that were in there are also on this list. So we've got Detroit Become Human.
Define direction then, because
direction, I guess, is just like the overall
coherence.
The overall coherence. Like there for these games, there is a singular director that oversees the entire project, much like a movie, and make sure the finished product and how it looks, how it plays, how it sounds is all adhering to his or her liking.
Yeah.
And that's basically what it's talking about. Narrative is, strictly speaking,
just story.
The story within the game. So the nominees for that are Detroit Become Human, God of War, Life is Strange 2 Episode 1, which I don't think should count because Life is Strange is an episodic series, and like
if the entire game
as like
was
a single
out, then
game,
sure, but yeah.
If the entire game's out, then by all means put it in there. But I don't think that's a very fair like place to put it.
And then there's also Spider-Man and Red Dead 2. Life is like it's not just weird to put it in that category. It's just unfair for the game itself. Like it's going up against games that exist in their entirety.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next category is Best Art Direction. The nominees for this are Assassin's Creed Odyssey, God of War, Octopath Traveler. Oh, I didn't even say that right.
Octopus Traveler.
Squidward Tentacles Traveler, Red Dead Redemption 2, and a game I've never heard about called Return of the Obra Dinn, which looks like a monochromatic, pixelated 3D game. It looks neat, but I think Octopath needs to win this.
So I hate to say... I mean... I'd probably go with, honestly, even though it's just realism, I'd go with Red Dead over Octopath, but I'm honestly disappointed that World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth isn't in here, because say what you want about WoW and how the gameplay isn't super great and the loop isn't that fun, but the artists on that expansion have done such an amazing job with making something that looks cartoony but still very artistically interesting and coherent throughout all of the different zones. World of Warcraft has become a very, very beautiful game, and I feel like a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, I'd agree with you if I was in on the whole World of Warcraft thing, but I do remember what it used to look like and what it looks like now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a big improvement. And props to the creative team for putting so much blood, sweat, and tears into their project, because there's so much lore and there's so much art and fan art, and it's a really deep game with a lot of attention given to its art direction.
Blizzard knows how to get their fans invested, man.
Yeah,
it's really
they do.
a skill.
They really do. They can release a $60 game that doesn't have a story mode and yet have people interested in the story.
Yeah.
So, like, I think I want Octopath to win this, and it's easy to see why people would disagree with that, because it's just like, why? It's just a bunch of pixel art with some bloom lighting. That's about it. And I'd say
Connor.
no, because Octopath, even though it is a semi-traditional JRPG, they still have to be really creative with its enemy design, its terrain, its it's in the way that with like sci-fi, you can spread off into these different facets of like sci-fi art, because there's like cyberpunk, and then there's like Star Wars, there's Star Trek, there's different styles of doing sci-fi. But with a game like Red Dead Redemption 2, like, you know what the Wild West looks like, and you just have to make sure it looks like the Wild West. There isn't really a lot of wiggle room for like a super ton of creativity on that. And I feel like creativity should shine through for this award. Not that it matters too much, but like, that's why I think Octopath Traveler should win.
I see.
Because it has really good enemy design and really good character design, and the box art's beautiful, and the game is beautiful.
So I don't know if there is one or not, but if there isn't, I think there should be a separate category. There should be art direction, and there should be graphical fidelity, and Red Dead should win that one and not this one.
I don't think that would be a very good category, only because you need a lot of money and resources for that, and not all games are created equal. Not all developers are created equal.
And that's fine,
because,
but then, I mean,
like,
sometimes
Return of the Obra Dinn, that's not
a...
a AAA game, and that's in here with Best Art Direction only because its art style stands out and not its graphics.
Yeah,
So
but
that,
I mean,
that,
like, not
that
every...
would like purposefully section off certain things that wouldn't have the resources, because graphics equals money. You have to have money to have good graphics.
Yeah, but I mean, then you have best multiplayer game with some games that don't have multiplayer, so they can't get into that category. You know, like, you're already splitting things off into categories, so...
Yeah, I guess you're
why?
right. That's fair.
Yeah.
The next category is Best Score/Music, presented by Spotify. The nominees for that are Celeste, God of War, Spider-Man, Octopath Traveler, Red Dead Redemption 2, and Ni no Kuni 2.
I haven't played any of those games enough to know what their score is, but I can already see why Ni no Kuni 2 would be on that list.
I haven't heard any of the music for that game. Is it good?
Well, I haven't heard the music, but if they're working... I don't know how much... The issue is I don't know how much Ghibli has invested in that game, because if the music, like the animation, is coming from Ghibli, then it's going to be great. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'd give this one to either Octopath Traveler or God of War. And I'm leaning more towards God of War because I'm remembering like the main theme and the music cues from that game, because the music in that game is really good. Really good.
Yeah.
The next category is Best Audio Design, presented by Dolby.
Spider-Man.
So this is more...
It's got to be Spider-Man.
Spider-Man's on. There's a couple of games in here that haven't actually showed up in any of the other nominees or nominations. There's Call of Duty Black Ops 4, Forza Horizon 4, God of War, Spider-Man, and Red Dead Redemption 2.
So you'll be surprised to know that I actually have played Call of Duty Black Ops 4, probably more than any of the other games I've talked about.
And I hear it's good.
It's fine. It's Call of Duty. The sound mixing sounds like every other Call of Duty. Yeah.
All right, then.
I mean, like, there's just not a whole lot to talk about. I think you said Spider-Man, right?
Yeah, Spider-Man's on there.
I mean, they have different voice recordings depending on whether or not Peter is exerting himself and swinging around.
Yeah,
they transition between
really
phone calls and mission dialogue fantastically. Like, they've really hit the nail on the head in terms of making the audio believable.
Yeah, God of War does something similar to that, where like Atreus and Kratos have like built-in canned dialogue for certain scenarios in the game that aren't strictly story related. And there are parts in the game based on like Atreus's mood and and like just what's been revealed to him recently, where either he acts like a total asshole but does the same action, or like says something differently based on knowledge he's gained. Like it's pretty good, but not to the same level that Spider-Man does it. I'd agree with you and say that Spider-Man's probably the best bet for this vote. The next category is best performance in the game itself. There's some good choices in here.
Is Troy Baker on? Has Troy Baker been in anything recently? I know he's in everything, but
not recently. Nothing that comes to mind for me. But the nominees for this are Brian Deckard as Connor from Detroit Become Human.
Agree.
He's a good boy. Even though the game is not that great, but he's still a good boy. And I think his performance is fine with what he's given with. Christopher Judge is Kratos from God of War, and his performance in that game is very good. Very different for Kratos, and really, really humanizing, and really... It's just a good performance. It's very good. There's a... Oh god, I'm gonna butcher this name so badly. Melisanti Mahut as Cassandra in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. If this actress is Greek, I'm gonna have my Greek friends tell me how to pronounce this sometime later. There's Roger Clark as Arthur Morgan in Red Dead Redemption 2, and Yuri Lowenthal as Peter Parker in Spider-Man.
I can't really comment on any of those. Most of those games I haven't played, so...
I'd like to see Christopher Judge win that, but I think it's going to go to the guy who played Connor.
Yeah. I think
it's going to go to him. Or Yuri Lowenthal. It could go to either of them.
I don't know that he's the best, but he's definitely the fan favorite, so...
Yeah. The next category, Best Independent Game. The nominees for that are Celeste, Dead Cells, Into the Breach, Return of the Obra Dinn, and come on, baby, scroll for me. Come on. You can do it. You can do it. Oh, I missed it. Just give me a sec. What a compelling podcast. The Messenger. The Messenger.
Well, if Celeste is on Game of the Year, then it's probably going to win Best Independent Game too, right?
You'd think so, but I think a lot of people are going to vote for Dead Cells. I hear nothing but great things about that game.
But have a lot of people played it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, a lot of people. A lot of people have played Dead Cells.
Gotcha.
Not as much played The Messenger. I know that's one of the more popular games on here. And Into the Breach. A lot of people played Into the Breach. And I have yet to play it. It's by the same people that made Faster Than Light, I believe. I played a little bit of it.
Yeah, no, I watched streamers play Into the Breach.
What'd you think of it?
It's not my kind of game. I don't like strategy games.
I like strategy games if they're done well enough for my stupid monkey brain to comprehend.
Yep, same. The I don't know. I can appreciate strategy games when they're not like something like Fire Emblem, where the hardest difficulty is actually just random impossibilities. But it's the hardest difficulty is actually a challenge. Because if I'm gonna play a strategy game, I want to prove just to myself that I am the smartest that I can be. But the issue with playing something like Fire Emblem on hard is, like I said, it's a lot of things that are literally just impossible and badly designed. Whereas if you have a difficult strategy game that you can play on hard that is actually reasonable and challenging, then I'm down for that.
I agree. I totally agree. And I do want to get more into strategy games because I do find myself enjoying them when I do get sucked in, but the problem is I just don't get sucked in enough.
There's not a whole lot of strategy games with really engrossing stories.
There's like Fire Emblem, that's about it.
And, I mean, people like the old Warcraft games.
People like Valkyria Chronicles.
Yeah, that's a little bit different, though.
I guess. The next category, I don't know if I'm going to go through all these categories because there's still a lot on the webpage, and I don't want to deal with this webpage like flipping out on me for just scrolling. So we might end it at this nomination, but I feel like this is a good one to leave it on, just for the Game Awards topic anyway, because some of these choices are interesting, especially considering the nomination. It's for Best Mobile Game. I don't have anything wrong with mobile games, really. I feel like unless they're like soulless money-grabbing machines, which a lot of them are, you can make a good mobile game and have it just be a good game instead of like having that extra, tag on there saying that's a mobile game. But the nominations for this category are Donut County, Florence, Fortnite, PUBG Mobile, and Reigns Game of Thrones. Now, this is weird because, so Donut County, I have not played the full game, but I did get to play it at PAX East 2017, where not a lot of people played it, and it did get some sort of like cult following when it was released on like PS4 and on PC and on a bunch of other platforms. It's really charming. It's almost like reverse Katamari. Like you play as this little hole in the ground, and you got to find like stuff to suck into it, and then the hole gets bigger, and then you start sucking in more stuff. But I was taken aback by this because I didn't realize that Donut County was released on mobile, and two, that it was could be considered a mobile game. I'm wondering maybe if they designed it to be a mobile game to begin with, because I mean it works. All you have to do is move the hole around.
There's actually versions of Donut County on mobile that are free, where you like compete in a multiplayer room, and you like swallow other people's holes. I don't know if any inspiration was taken from that, or if they took inspiration from Donut County, but
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there are other games like that on the App Store.
But is it really fair to classify Fortnite as a mobile game? Like, there's a mobile version of it, but is it a mobile game?
It depends if the port stands on its own, or if I pick up the port of that game, would I rather be playing it on the PS4?
Yeah, and I think this category needs a little bit more definition on what classifies as a mobile game, because these are most if not all ports.
Yeah.
More than half of it is ports. So it's like, is it just like, are you taking that into consideration? Or I feel like they should consider games that were specifically designed for phones to be played on phones, and that's it. That is a mobile game. If it's a game that I can play on my phone, but also play on my computer, and it's the same game, is it really a mobile game?
No, I'd agree with that.
The only mobile aspect about it is like you just can play it on your phone.
Yeah,
but if it's specifically designed for a touchscreen and it's designed to be played on your phone, that's a mobile game.
Yeah, that's almost like saying, what's the best PS4 game that came out this year, and having a multi-platform game on that list.
That's like saying Final Fantasy IX is my favorite mobile game, because Final Fantasy IX has a mobile port, and you can play it on your phone, and it's like $25 or something. It's a ridiculous price.
Yeah, a weird category.
I don't think I'm going to go through the rest of these nominations. If you want to see them for yourself, you can just go to thegameawards.com and take an in-depth look, and you can actually vote for titles that you would like to see win those nominations. So go out there and vote, fellow millennials.
Can we talk about our games of the year now?
Yes, let's talk about our games of the year. So I'll have you go first, since I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
Well, I actually have a question. Do we want to do best game we played this year, and then do game that came out this year?
So like a game that didn't necessarily come out this year, but we played and it was the best game we played?
Yeah, because I'd have more to talk about with that.
Yeah, let's do that, and then, I'll just have to think about my answer for the first one.
Well, I'll start off with that. So, the best game I played this year, but that didn't come out this year, was probably Super Hot VR. And it's not because it's an amazing game, but because the experience of playing that game in room scale VR is really mind-blowing. The fact that the game actually gets you to go on the ground and to reach for guns, and I'm like punching my wall trying to get something that's just out of reach, it almost overwhelms your senses in the way that VR is supposed to. If the headsets were just a little bit better.
Yeah, I just wish the FOV on most headsets nowadays was just a little bit better.
The FOV,
because I'm engrossed in VR, but I'm not transported to another world.
Yeah.
Not yet.
The FOV needs to be better. The resolution needs to be a little higher, and it needs to be wireless. And then we'll be just about there.
Do you know if the PlayStation VR's FOV is better than the Vive's?
I want to say it's the weakest out of all three headsets.
Really? I heard Oculus was the weakest.
I don't think so. I think, because the PSVR has to run off of, what's the term? Less good hardware and superior inferior. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah,
So the
fair
screens are
point.
smaller and the resolution is a little bit worse.
Gotcha.
But I mean, I haven't played a ton of stuff in my VR headset yet, other than Super Hot and Beat Saber. But it's definitely convinced me that it's something worth investing in, even if the time to invest isn't quite yet.
Do you want to go on to your game of the year, or do you want to hear my game that I played this year that didn't come out this year, but
I want to
one of
hear
my
yours
favorites?
because I'm still thinking about my game of the year, to be honest.
This is tough because I played a lot of games on my Switch this year. I played a lot of games, and I played some games that I missed out on Wii U that were really good. The first one that comes to mind, and one that I really enjoyed, I wouldn't say it's my favorite that I played this year, but Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Man, that's a good game. That is a good game. If you do not own it on Wii U, and you want to experience it but are afraid to pay $60 for it, the only reason people are pissed off about the $60 is that they already paid $60 for the Wii U version, and they're going to have to pay for it again, and all they're getting is one new mode. Me, I'm an outlier. I didn't get the Wii U version, so this is all new to me, and I felt fine paying $60 for it. But man, that game is good. It is just so good. It's much like Donkey Kong Country Returns, where it's very difficult. It's very difficult, but it's always fair. You always feel like every fuck up is your fault. Everything is your fault, and it's designed really well. That's one of the ones that comes to mind. I'm going through The World Ends With You Final Remix on Nintendo Switch, to which I was very turned off by it at the beginning because I wasn't getting used to the Joy-Con controls, and I didn't want to touch my touchscreen on my Switch because I don't want scratches on it and stuff, even though there's like one or two very small ones. Once I got used to the Joy-Con controls, it clicked for me, and I'm just like, I understand why people love this game. Its characters are so likable and awesome. The story, while kind of convoluted at the beginning, I haven't beat it yet, by the way. I'm just like, learning as the characters are learning what's going on is really enjoyable, especially since Neku, the main character, is suffering from amnesia, and he's slowly remembering why he's here and what's going on. It's not to the levels of like Kingdom Hearts, where it's like you don't know what the fuck is going on all the time. And I say that only because Nomura is attached to this game. The World Ends With You Final Remix is a solid RPG, and I highly recommend it. It's very good. And I'm just trying to think, is there a game that I played this year that didn't come out and I'm just like, man, what a game. Yeah, that's about it. That's all I got for that. But what's your game of the year, Zach?
Wait, did Dragon Ball FighterZ come out this year?
I'm getting to that.
Okay, well, my game of the year, I don't know that I'm allowed to say a game of the year, honestly, because I don't know that I've actually finished a single game that came out this year, which is kind
Really?
of sad to say.
No, it's fine.
But I haven't been playing video games. I basically like.
Are you a fake gamer girl, Zach?
Oh yeah, definitely. No, but like I had a shitty semester at college, so I wasn't gaming. And then I spent the summer decompressing, so I wasn't. So I guess you could say I could have been gaming, but I wasn't. And now I've been so busy with work that just like I haven't had the opportunity. I've bought a bunch of stuff. It's where all of my money goes, but I haven't been. There's been nothing that's grabbed me enough for me to like sit down and be like, all right, I'm just gonna pour 8 hours into this, you know? And I feel like for me to enjoy a video game, it has to be something that I can binge upon.
Mm-hmm. Just to go back to the previous question, because I just thought of mine, like my definitive one, like no question. It's Breath of the Wild. Because I didn't finish Breath of the Wild until May of this year.
Mm.
I got it in like August of 2017, like around my birthday time. And I didn't finish it until May because I wanted to take my time with it. And when I finished, I was like, wow, that was really good. And it really stands out for me because it's like one of the first open world games where I was just like consistently engrossed. I try other open world games and I just lose it. I can't do it. I tried Far Cry. I've tried Skyrim. I've tried Fallout. Like, even though I enjoy it and enjoy playing some of those games, I don't get to the point where I'm just like, I can see myself sinking 100 hours into this. Zelda is where it clicked for me. And I was like, I can see myself getting lost in this for a long time. But there's a point when I was getting to the end game where I'm just like, okay, now's the time I end this. This is the perfect end cap for this. I'm done. Let's move on. And I did it, and I loved it. Great game. Best game that I played this year that didn't come out this year.
Zelda didn't really do it for me, but I feel like it might have one of my favorite aesthetics out of any game that I've ever played. I really love...
It's a gorgeous looking game.
To me, Breath of the Wild looks like a Ghibli movie that someone... It looks kind of like Ni no Kuni, but a little bit more modern anime, if that makes sense.
No, I get what you're saying.
And I really, really love how that looks brought to life. It's just such a gorgeous video game.
I agree. So you're saying you don't have a game of the year just because you didn't finish a game this year that came out this year?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Okay. So for me, we hinted at it earlier, just by sheer numbers and just by how much I absolutely love this game, my game of the year is Dragon Ball FighterZ. Like, oh my god. Oh my god. It is everything I have ever wanted in a fighting game based on Dragon Ball. And I was so scared at first. I was so scared, but for all the wrong reasons. Because when people were playing it at trade shows and stuff, they were saying, like, it's really simple. It's a really simple game. Anyone can play it. And then in my head, as a big fighting game fan that loves technicality in his fighting games, I'm like, oh no, they're dumbing it down too much. This isn't good. It's like, oh my god, I'm not going to enjoy it. And then when I talked to Wooly, who was at MagFest technically this year, because it is still 2018, and that was in 2018. He had a chance to play Dragon Ball. Wooly from Super Best Friends, by the way. To name drop, I guess.
You may have heard of him.
You may have heard of him. He's also big into the fighty games, and we happened to be in the same place, and we were talking about fighting games, and I brought up Dragon Ball FighterZ because I knew he had played it at one point, and I'm just like, so should I be worried that it's so simplified? Like, should I be worried? And he's like, oh no, dude, no, do not. Like, it's amazing. It's a great game. Do not worry about that. And I'm like, okay, if you say so. And then I played it, and I'm like, I get it. This is great. It's so good at staying simplified enough for people that are either not familiar with fighting games or are familiar with fighting games but don't play them that often, but still appealing to that super hardcore fan base. Because high-level Dragon Ball play is so fun to watch and so fun to play. That game is incredibly designed. It is so good, and I cannot recommend it more. It's becoming cheaper now. Some Black Friday deals for that game, you can get it for $25 on PS4 and Xbox One. Get it. Play it. It's the best. It's the best game of the year. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to tell you that, but Dragon Ball FighterZ is my game of the year.
And then Connor will beat you at it, and you'll never want to play again.
This, I think, has been going on for a good while, and I think we should probably wrap it up. We covered on some good topics, and I'm excited to see what the future brings, not just in terms of news and stuff that we can talk about and just stuff to shoot the shit, but also just in terms of the podcast, because I feel like we've got something good here.
Dude.
And I want to see this explore more, and I'm allowed to say this because it's technically episode 0, and I'm allowed to be self-reflexive in that. Not to say that you can't acknowledge the fact that you're in a podcast, but since this is the testing grounds, I was worried at the start of this recording. It's like, oh, what if I have nothing to talk about? What if the banter isn't good enough? But no, I feel comfortable with this, and let's hope for even more.
Dude, I can't.
Zach, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah,
for talking about
no problem,
fucking video
dude.
games and cool stuff with me.
I love video games.
That sounded so genuine.
I'm sorry. I just video games have become such a meme.
You had to force yourself to say that you love video games. You can find Zach on Twitter at HeyZKay. That's Hey, the letter Z or Z, depending on where you are in the world, and KAY. You can find him on Twitter there. You can also find him on YouTube with that handle, and hopefully you'll be able to enjoy some very good and wholesome content from him if you look that up on youtube.com, the website. I have been your host, Connorcade. Find me on Twitter at Connorcade, or on YouTube, which is probably where you're listening to this, or maybe you're not. I don't know. Find me at Connorcade, same as it's spelled over here. Thank you guys so much for listening, and thanks for taking a night to spend with us in the arcade.